Right, so this video I'm going to go over the programmed throttle feature of the Cobra 8 ACE. So this guy here. So this allows you to do tuning without having to touch the radio. So the radio basically goes to 100%, and this the EUC will actually apply the power as per the tune. Now in terms of the setup, the overall setup, so we'll go through all the options first. No cutoff on voltage. I started at 15% power, 5 ramp, 120 millisecond hold time, 100% power, never touch punch control. Brake, depending on how your car works, you can tune your brakes to how you set them up. I use a little bit of drag, so I run a medium ramp for drag, and my auxiliary mode will adjust the drag brake for me. So I have a dial on my radio that'll change the drag brake for me. Motor, run it in reverse, sensor only, and 160,000 limit for the motor. And then for timing, so I start the cheat only with 8 degrees, starting at 10,000 RPM and having all 8 degrees in by 55,000 RPM. And then I start the turbo. I started at 50% throttle. I have 30 degrees of turbo coming in, and I have it ramping in at 20 degrees per second. So every second it's only going to bring in 20 degrees. Logging, I only sort of skip a couple of little bits of data here, but power wise to the front, 20 sample frequency. Curve, absolutely nothing, just gets ignored. Brake curve, don't need it. Reverse curve, don't use it. Programmed throttle, I'll go into this in a second, but also running the latest 1.16 firmware. So with the programmed throttle, setting this up, I kind of just built a curve, and I'll load the original curve, something like this. So that's where it started, and for my car and how it was set up, 30% on the hit was way too much. So I kept tweaking, and every time I made a tweak, I would save the curve. So I went to 20, basically lowered it down, saved the curve, and then went to 15, and that's when it started to work. So about this point now, it was starting to go off the line a little bit more controlled, and I start increasing the curve and keep adjusting things as I go. The way I did this was by reading the data logs. So if I have a look at some data logs, I've got my last 5 passes here. So I use the scroll wheel, zoom in, and what I can do is I can pick this point, indicator options, remove points before. Now this starts the tune at exactly 0. So my tune is starting at 0. I can remove the ripple and the accelerator. Yeah, I don't need this, and I don't need this. So I get a little bit of a cleaner log. So now the tune's starting at 0, and what I look for is very smooth RPM. So I have nice smooth RPM. I have nice progression of timing. So this is cheap coming in to here, which should be about 50% throttle. It starts then the turbo. But what I notice is the amps, which is the screen line. See how it's below the RPM, and then the green line goes above the RPM. So this, when it's above, it's indicating here to me that there's more demand being applied to the motor, so it's drawing more amps. At this point, there's not as much load being applied to the motor, so there's no wheel spin. It's very nice and smooth, but it shows that it could be drawing more power. So what I would do here is I would look and say, all right, well, that 0.6 seconds, I can increase this part of the curve. So the light blue line is the actual programmed throttle. So at this point I could lift this curve up, which would draw more amps. So I would go from here, I would go into my programmed throttle, and here at 0.6 I would take this point and I would lift it up and I would save the curve. And then make the pass. And then I would, after making the pass, I would then look at the next data log. I do the same thing. Pick the start of the run. You indicate option remove points before. And I would remove some of the information I don't really need to see. And again here I can see good amount of load, nice smooth RPMs, nice smooth timing. Amps a bit higher here, but at this point still could be raised a bit more. So I could bring this point of the curve up a little bit more to try and bring some load in here. So I want the amps to be more progressive. So the amps are coming up and then going down and then coming back up again. So again at 0.65, maybe 0.7, I would lift the curve up at 0.7. So I'd go back to my throttle curve and I can just add a point in here. So this is basically exactly from the data log, the starting at 0 at 0.7 into the run. 0.7 into the run, that's where I can apply power. So I go back into here, 0.7 into the run, I can bring in some power. And you can see down here where it says mouse location, if I hover near the point, it will turn to point location. And it's saying 0.71 seconds into the run, be at 49%. And see, there's a little bit of a sort of weird curve there, so I might do something like that to make it nice and progressive. So nice and smooth, I want the curve to be nice and smooth. Again, I would make my pass. Same thing, I would go back into my data log and I would continue to do this until I start seeing a data log more like this. So if I again remove the points, stuff like that. See, now my amps are continuing to drive forward, so I'm getting more demand the whole time, but I'm not wheel spinning, so I'm not getting, the RPMs aren't rising showing that it's wheel spinning. The RPMs are nice and smooth, it's progressive, getting faster, all the timing is coming in and continuing to come in. So even when I'm right all the way up here, I'm still drawing amps just until quite at the end here. It's sort of starting to tail off, so I could add some more at the top here, but the rest of it looks really good. The amps are rising the whole time I'm making that pass, meaning I'm getting traction, I'm getting drive, and I'm loading the ESC up. Then if I go back to my last pass, then I'll remove this before. Same kind of deal. Amps are above the RPM, it's always climbing, amps are always climbing, and the amps are holding up, and I'm still adding more timing throughout the length of the pass. So this pass was about a 2-1 on timing, 2-0, so it was probably around here is when the pass actually finished, and then sort of went past the lights a little bit. But that's pretty much how I tuned the programmed throttle. So I kept lifting the throttle up wherever I found the amps were below. So again, I'll go back to, I'll have a look at one of these logs again. So at this point here, you can see the curve sort of dips down a little bit and then comes up, and it's showing that you could apply more power here. So anywhere along this pointing curve, 0.5 seconds, 0.6 seconds, 0.7 seconds, anywhere along there, you could lift that curve up to make it go faster and to load the motor up. So wherever I found that the amps could have been higher, I would look to do whatever time within the run, so 0.3, 0.5. I would go into my throttle, and at 0.3, 0.5, I would lift that throttle up. So I'd lift this curve up, which made it demand more power from the motor and go faster. Up until the point where you start seeing wheel spin, and then you can start bringing them back down to work it out. So if you start having wheel spin a little bit here, then you can start raising up the back. So pretty much, because it's all time-based and the data logs start from 0, you can tell exactly where in the run I can apply more power or I can pull power away. So yeah, the other things I did was starting throttle. So I started at 30%. So that means I've got about 30% of power left to drive back on, and my time scale was at 2. So making a pass. This one. Making a 2.0 pass, basically getting to 100% power just before the end of the pass. So it's just the right amount of power. So if you're getting more traction, like this car, my car's not really set up for dry tyre, but if you were getting more traction, you could definitely bring this down, so you will get into 100% sooner, which should all increase the load as well. Some of the key things is always saving your tune. So when you're happy with the tune and you want to run it, I would save the tune. So when I come back into it, I can load whatever tune I want, and I can adjust from there again. So after I make the pass, save the tune, reload the tune after the pass while I'm looking at the data log, and then make adjustments to suit. Alright, hope this helps.